Bryce Dallas Howard looks like a crazy cat lady. That's all I'm saying.
You saying she looks like her dad and a crazy cat lady?
Yeah, right.
Wow. Low blow, man. Low blow.
Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the new movie, Argylle.
Let's get started.
Ellie Conway seems to have it all. Fame from writing best-selling spy novels, a moderate fortune that allows her to have a quiet life, and a very cute cat. But when Aidan Wilde swoops into her life and reveals that Ellie has a target on her back for eerily prophetic writing, she realizes her world isn't insulated from danger. Ellie has to choose. Will her writing expertise help her survive, or will it become a liability?
Rebecca, how many times have we seen this trailer in our local theaters?
A lot.
Yes, and you were excited about this movie?
I was still excited about this movie. I love a good Matthew Vaughn film. It's either going to be a cheese fest of the highest order.
Little help? Hold on.
Or it's just going to be plain good. Either way, I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
You did not have fun.
I just wasn't that excited. I mean, the trailers were predictable. I admit, Sam Rockwell, I like him. He's pretty funny.
Whoa, hey, there's a cat in there.
Obviously, the cat. If you've not seen this trailer, there's a lot of Argylle and a lot of cat. I mean, truly, Bryce Dallas Howard looks like a crazy cat lady. That's all I'm saying.
You saying she looks like her dad and a crazy cat lady?
Yeah, right.
Wow. Low blow, man. Low blow.
But you're excited about this. I admit, I am less excited about this movie, and I wanted to be excited about it.
Would you say it wasn't Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels for you?
It was not. You liked it?
I did. I enjoyed this film. I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into when they're like, from the guy who did Kingsman. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun.
I remember First Kingsman. I liked First Kingsman.
But you liked a lot of the cast in it too.
Let's be real. It's an espionage action comedy. It's got it all. And yet it had it all. And yet it did not. I wanted to like it more. And like you said, the casting I was excited about. Catherine O'Hara. I love Catherine O'Hara. I was excited for this, but it just, I don't know. It just felt very long. And honestly, the movie felt bloated in my mind. It was too long to start with.
I can understand that. There are definitely some sequences they could have shored up, trimmed up, or even saved for a sequel.
Oh, I thought you were going to say just erased it. The premise wasn't terrible, right?
And we're trying not to spoil it.
I am. It's true. I'm coming over here kind of cagey, but you're right. So Ellie is a writer. We'll talk about that a bit.
Oh my God, you're Ellie friggin' Conway.
Author of Argylle series, Ellie Conway!
She writes spy novels that are pretty prophetic, pretty true, real life world events that are happening, and it's getting the attention of people.
Why would they care about me?
Because you're a goddamn fortune teller, Ellie. What you wrote in your new book actually happened, and you kicked a hornet's nest you didn't even know existed.
Obviously the baddies, because, that's the movie.
And also some good guys too. She's not alone in this.
Yeah. I thought, okay, the premise is okay. The actors are okay. And it's funny. It started off slow and not too engaging, picked up a little bit, but then it went here and here and here and here and here. And it wasn't that I had a hard time following it. I just was kind of annoyed.
I know one of the things that really bothers you doesn't bother me so much, but I know especially for this film, it bothered you as, okay, we're going to funny. Now we're serious. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. And you're like, just pick a bit. Stick to the bit. Incorporate. If you're going to do different bits, incorporate them well. I know that was a huge complaint for you.
I'm laughing. Pick a lane, people. Pick a lane. Yeah, and I think maybe that was part of it because it did go from here to here to here. There were parts of it that were funny toward the end. I know there were a few scenes, smoke and oil. That's all I can say, right? No spoilers, but smoke and oil, you'll know what I'm talking about. Those I thought were well shot. They were pretty visually interesting to look at. However, there just wasn't enough. Although Sam Rockwell, every scene he was in, and I say every, probably most, he really was funny and enjoyable to watch.
I am such a fan.
Oh, yeah? What is it you do?
Espionage.
Would you sign my book?
Here we go.
I love this book.
She's a little scene stealer. I know he's the Dutron, but he's a pretty good little scene stealer.
Yeah, no, right? And I liked him, and obviously Samuel L. Jackson, love him.
Surprisingly, no cursing.
It didn't work, man. I'm still alive, mother.
I just crack up. He's in every movie it seems like we see lately. I'm not fine with Bryce Dallas Howard, although I still think of her more Jurassic Park. It just kind of
Do
burned
you
in my
want to
brain.
mention the shoe comment, or should I?
You may mention the shoe comment.
So for those of you that remember Bryce's work in Jurassic World, there's a little nod to her footwear, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
I don't think the movie was written poorly. I don't think it was acted poorly. It just, the way that it came together, I just didn't enjoy.
Did you feel like you'd seen a lot of it before? I was trying
I'm
hard.
just laughing. I can't say that I've seen cats and Argylle cases with espionage and things. Although you're right, though, some spy movies have a lot of tropes that are very, very, very familiar and overdone.
I think the fact that there was a book that Ellie was writing, I think kind of gave us a vehicle to lampshade these tropes, but also make fun of them as well.
And that's the part that's just kind of driving me a little bit bonkers, because the story in of itself, it wasn't like, oh, eye roll. It's just, I think with how long it was, there is something about how do you tell a story. And of course, there's the part where it's, oh, by the way, there's going to be a sequel. It's like, oh my goodness. And that is one of my bugaboos, where we're seeing this movie and you go, oh, maybe it's wrapped up. Maybe it's good. And it's like, no, but there's more story to tell. And I'm thinking, I'm not excited for the next one.
Stay for the mid-credit scene. There's only one, but it does set up the film that Teresa's talking about.
The other thing I think that I was struggling with is there was a lot of hype for this movie.
Well, it didn't help that we saw the trailer so many freaking times.
But think about it. The budget on this movie was $200 million. That's a pretty sizable budget.
That's a pretty nifty budget, I'll agree. Some of it I just did not see. But there are other scenes where it's like, yes, you spent the money here.
You had made a comment, too, that it was, when it was good and positive, there was a lot of good and positive, and then several of the characters really switched, just in a real extreme way. And I think that was something that I did struggle with as well, that I saw it, but then seeing it, it's not like it felt kind of schizophrenic, like back and forth, but it just felt less believable. And honestly, the characters that they wanted you to like, I had a hard time liking them too.
I agree with you. I think what you mean to say is the switch felt very jarring, and it didn't feel like an extension of the character. It's not like you could see this character blossoming into this other side of them.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I agree with that. It's a great way to say it, actually. But I think that kept me from liking it more. And because there were so many subplots, I don't know that many subplots needed to be covered in one movie, especially if they're planning to have a sequel. And I understand they're trying to set this up. Fair enough, right? It may be a little bit longer, but it felt too long. And I don't know that it needed so many different subplots.
I think this would have been interesting as like a limited series.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
If you would have broken it up into like 3 or 4 episodes, I think you could have taken that care and attention to detail that you were asking for, but also give room for the characters to grow into these parts of themselves that the story is asking us to go along with.
I would agree with that. I think the other part that I was struggling with is oftentimes, we talk about set design, costuming, music, all these other layers, and it didn't feel like a lot of the other layers were present.
I can see that. Definitely there's some notorious product placement even within the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Well, look who's producing the movie.
Fair point.
But
I mean,
that's ugh.
I'm excluding that. There are several other products that they used. I'm just like, oh, you went there. That makes no logical sense why there's placement for that in the story.
I'm not a fan. Right. We're not talking Meow Mix, right?
I'll give you a hint. First 5 minutes of the movie.
I agree with that. And to me, that's an ick factor, truly. Do we have any questions from the box?
With different spy movies like Mission Impossible, etc., hitting the box office, was the stylistic choices they made the only thing that really stood out, or were there other things that stood out?
I appreciate the attempt at Inception-like meta with this story. You're making fun of existing spy tropes, but you're also asking them to exist in a world where it just gets overblown really fast. And that's a Matthew Vaughn film for you. It can either start off smooth and creep up into impossible camp, or it can just be a solid action movie. It feels like I'm looking at both sides of his cinematography. Mm-hmm. Saying as somebody who likes his work too.
I agree. And I think that's the part where there's the disappointment factor. Do we have any other questions from the box?
Earlier, we went back and did a retro rewind review of Night and Day. Do you think this felt like Night and Day, or do you think it was really different than Night and Day?
Oh, it felt like Night and Day.
The difference between these two films is night and day.
But it really wasn't, though. It was kind of like night and day. And I look at that and I say, okay, because it was very familiar. And I don't recall us giving Night and Day this huge, moth rating. I remember you were saying when you were younger and you'd seen it with the box, you enjoyed it more. And then you'd went back and you're like, I kind of liked it a little less. That was the first time I had seen it, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I think it actually did it better than this one.
I agree with you. I think if I was younger, I definitely would like Argylle a lot more. That being said, a lot of the tropes I've been seeing since I've aged that were present in Night and Day have almost been taken up a notch in this film.
That's true. There are parts of this movie that are familiar. I do believe that there are elements that are fun, that I laugh, that I'm like, oh, that's not too terrible. But I don't want to go to a movie and go, oh, that wasn't too terrible. Oh, that was okay. It just felt very disjointed to me. And with the disjointing, and as we were saying, just the extreme back and forth, it just didn't feel cohesive enough to really sit with it for the full 2.5 hours and go, wow, I'm enjoying this.
This would be one movie I wouldn't mind having a spoiler talk review on, because sure. I feel like we could get into a lot more detail about what was great about this movie and what wasn't so great, because the great things were really great and the semi-sucky things were definitely noticeable.
Correct. There was a real extreme. I would agree with that. Do we have any other questions from the box?
Looking at the poster, we have someone prominent in the front. Do you think Henry Cavill fans are going to be disappointed with how he is used in this movie?
I think if you're a hardcore Henry Cavill, like some people in our cinema community that I know, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. Henry's not used in this film a lot, but he is used for great effect. His comedic timing is definitely noticeable here. We saw some of it in the trailer of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and we also saw some of it from Man from U.N.C.L.E. If you like either of those little snippets that you've seen, I think you're going to enjoy this.
I think he was underutilized personally. I hear what you're saying, that there's some comedy, but the thought was he's a name that people know, and my thought is he would have a more prominent, honestly, speaking a little bit more. That was surprising to me.
But he definitely communicated nonverbal funny pretty well, too.
Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't what I was expecting.
No, definitely the marketing campaign knows what they have and is using it to the best of their ability. There's also the reality is this movie hinges on 2 or 3 very big twists, so they're trying not to spoil as much as they can.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, and we sound cagey, too. We're like, don't say Truly, if you're interested, go see the movie, I think.
I agree. This is specifically for a certain kind of audience, and I think that audience is going to either love this movie or kind of be like, eh.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, Rebecca, it is time for you to decide. 1 to 5 moths. What do you think this week?
I'm actually in the meh camp. It's 2 and a wing for me.
Wow, all right. Number 1 reason?
This movie needs a little bit more oomph, a little bit more finessing. The good parts were awesome. I definitely think we have Not a competitor to the church scene, but it's definitely, hey, this is a cool scene. It feels like this in the first Kingsman movie.
Sure.
You definitely see Matthew's strengths, but the problem is his weaknesses are highlighted and almost telegraphed to a blaringly obvious audience.
Ooh, all right. Okay, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. I saw those eyebrows. I would say it is, I'll give it a 2 and a wing as well. Honestly, I'm between a 2 and a wing and a 2.
That's a lot higher than I thought you were going to go for this movie.
To say it's below average to me is like, boy, this thing needs to be a really terrible movie. And I don't think it was a terrible movie. Like you said, there is an audience for this movie. Obviously, they're trying to set it up. There were parts, the ending, before we get to the nod to the sequel, was creative enough and interesting enough. The acting was good. The casting was good. It just had too many twists and turns. It wasn't satisfying. It was too long. And as we were saying, a lot of the supporting pieces that we like, the cinematography, the costuming, and that sort of thing, it just really fell flat for me.
I think that's tough to see, especially when Matthews actually created some of my favorite films that I like to go back and rewatch.
Oh, yeah. And he has a following, like you said. In First Kingsman, I enjoyed that too. So,
And you didn't go into it expecting that you were going to enjoy it. I remember you were so apprehensive about it.
Correct. We're talking about Kingsman. This one, I just wasn't so excited because it's just been so saturated. And honestly, I get that the movie was, the cat wove, throughout the whole movie. But it truly felt like Crazy Cat Lady with a cat who's a writer. And it's like, I don't know if I want to spend 2.5 hours just watching that.
Yeah, I definitely keep going back to the thought in my mind with this would be such a better miniseries.
Thanks for joining us. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Watch the notifications for our weekly show, Movies and More, where we will have more movie reviews, the latest Hollywood news, and commentary star meant to amuse.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this movie review, you might click the link to check out a review of Zone of Interest, or click the other link to watch last week's show, where we reviewed Miller's Girl.
Remember, cinema community movies are better
Better
together.
together.
Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.